Okay. So we are recording, just kind of looking where we left off. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. Does everybody have the website defined? Do you have curbside tie? I'm going to turn the lights down here in zone 1. So you can see this a little bit better. So I was able to log in from last week with my username, password, boom. And the site was still there, still defined, great, so everybody still has the same thing. I don't know what IT did to fix this issue, but it was about a year or so ago, we would have to go in and redefine the site every single time. So I'm glad that we don't have to worry about that nonsense anymore, that we can pick up basically where we left off. Now, just in case, I have, because we only worked on the one page the other day, I uploaded, while Wendy was talking, I just uploaded the CT About HTML page in Brightspace there on the form feed, when you first hit the home page. So in case you need to download that, pop it in your site. Of course, both Mac or PC will say, hey, this file already exists. Do you want to replace it? Just simply say yes, and it will overwrite it, and you'll be all caught up where we were. So we managed to, just to recap again, we hit some more HTML elements this time around. Obviously, cutting and pasting, opening up the file, and then remember the text was just one great big long text string until we broke it up with a header, which we popped the image in. We also created a footer, and then the article, which is what the author decided to use that HTML element to create the main content of the page. We also then added H1, which is a heading 1 element, or H2, I forget which one we did. Couple paragraphs. You learned about the strong element and the emphasis element, which he styled a couple different ways. And then we actually use the Q element for quote, which is interesting because once it hits the browser live, it actually puts little quotation marks around it. Again, I find that kind of a wimpy HTML element run because I'm like, I could put quotes. Actually put quotes in there. But the reason they use the Q element's kind of interesting, is because most quotes, when it hits, are what we call daggers, the quotes that look straight up and down. If you look really closely, these are what we call printer quotes, real fancy with the curly little Q edges on them, like, oh, that's pretty. So that's kind of where we left off. Now, I stopped deliberately with the footer area because let's rewind back to week 1. Do you remember we kind of fooled you a little bit when we were in Notepad, and I said, hey, hit your space bar a couple times. And when you previewed it in the browser and even refreshed, any gaps in between, you get one space, and that's it. So spacing does not matter horizontally. You hit the space, you type in my cat, you hit my space cat, space, loves football. It doesn't matter. Loves would be right up there, one space with the cat, my cat loves. There you go. Even if you hit the enter key, boom, 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 it will still word wrap around, does not matter, the vertical spacing, because it's all about the markup. Well, and we're going to get in and show you that there is something called a non-breaking space that is technically a character. You can do it in Word, obviously in HTML, and you can fool the page by inserting this non-breaking space character 17 times, and you will see the text spread itself apart if necessary. And so this is what is known, it's called character encoding. And when we go back, look, I'm going to go into code view for a second so we can get back here, and I'm going to zoom in. Well, it's good. I still remembered. Zoom in a little bit more so you can go. There we go. So this meta data care set, this UTF-8, this subset of Unicode, 65,536 characters that we can reference, and the browser then can understand, certain interesting punctuation marks or things of that nature that aren't typically found in your standard ASCII set, So I'm digressing a little bit, but a lot of these can be written with what we call, they're called HTML entities, just let's get it out there. HTML entities, and they can either be defined numerically, which a lot of them are, or by a simple little name, which we call a named entity. So some are numerical entities and others are named as far as that goes. And we're gonna, let's just dive right in and use a couple of these. Now, Dreamweaver does have some tools that enable you to go find these and plop them in. You can go out online and find 65,000 of them if necessary. And now with the emojis, you can use these things to pop in smiley faces, shamrocks, turd emojis, whatever you want to pop on your page, and it should show up because they are special as far as that goes. So let's jump down into our footer area and add some of these. So I deliberately typed this out. So you see here where it says curbside tie. We want to separate the 411 Belder Drive, which is the address, with what is called a bullet character, right? So I'm going to back this up a notch. And we'll stick this bullet character in here. And so, of course, I can't remember. And the syntax of this is really weird. Again, blame Tim Berners-Lee on this. But it is the and sign, and it's funny because it's not really funny, it's actually very useful. As soon as you type that, Dreamweaver assumes, oh, you're doing a numeric entity. And notice that it starts with the and sign and then the pound sign, which is typically something we would refer, or hashtag, as some people say, but it's also the number symbol. So that's telling you, and you can go down through, there's a list, pound sign 33, and it ends with a semicolon. It's an ugly syntax, but and, pound, whatever number it is, then end it with a semicolon. And you can see there's some of them there. Interesting, and pound 35 semicolon is actually a pound symbol. Understand that if HTML were to see this in the browser, it might throw it off a little bit. It's like, oh, you're inserting these special symbols, or are you not? And so it gets a little hairy. But you can start to see that it's trying to give us a list. And that's kind of nice because, like I said, there's thousands of these things. But in this case, let me look at, because I didn't memorize the number. It's pound sign. And this gets up there. So it is 8226. 8226 and a semicolon. And you'll know you've done it correctly when indeed it turns yellow on you. That's Dreamweaver's way of saying, okay, you got this right. Now, if you want, you can hit the space, but because remember, you do get a space. You do. So we want to put a little space before and after the dot, or in this case, the bullet. So I'm just going to hit it here one time and before it one time. If you've ever programmed anything and have ever done concatenation where you might have a sentence and then you add another piece and then another piece, and usually in most programming languages, a plus sign, you get a space. Sometimes, yeah, you might then preview it in a browser or run your program and words are smashed together. It's usually a little weird. But where else can we put this thing? Okay. Right after the NC, highlight this. Let's just save ourselves some grief. Do a Control C, copy that, and right after NC there, space, paste, space. So it looks like that. I think I added an extra character in that. There we go. It's actually 28201. There's no, it's supposed to be a zip code. Now, usually after the zip code, I think I lied to you folks. I apologize. Yeah, I surely did. This little guy goes after the zip code, so I apologize. Because this is where we're going to do this. Yeah, rip that one out between NC and the zip code. Sorry about that. It's looking at the wrong thing. Now we're just going to enter what is called the non-breaking space. This is a named entity, and it's just a slight variation on a theme. It still starts off with the and sign, but no pound sign, meaning it's not numerical. And you'll see, it actually has a name, if you will. Thus the term named entity. So it's written, again, the and sign. And then just put in here NBSP non-breaking space. That's what that stands for. So in other words, you see the difference. This is going to reference a special character that's out there. There's the number 8226. This is one that is named. It's not a number, so it still starts off the end. There's other ones like and copy, and LT for less than, and GT for greater, and reg for registered trademark. They're out there floating around. I can't recall right off the top of my head how many there are, but there are several dozen that make sense. If you understand non-breaking space, it's a special character in that respect. Now, we just actually separated between the two, but let's copy that one and then just paste another one aside of it. So we actually hit the space bar twice, if you will, and so we're getting we're actually getting spaces. This is an interesting little markup called a named entity. Now, if you save this guy, do a Control S, and this will. Then remember in Dreamweaver, we come down here to this little area right here, to preview. I'm just going to go ahead and preview this in a browser. Google Chrome is my choice, and you will see. Now take a look. You'll see curbside tie, little space, bullet, then a space. Then we got into, and notice the two gaps right there, then a space, bullet, and the phone number. So it makes it look really nice. And they're, like I said, several thousand of these. At one point, I can't remember where I put it on my website, maybe one semester, and then when I copied from one semester to the other, I copied the wrong semester. I used to have a link to a place where all of these guys live. Or not all of them, but the vast majority. But if yours turned out this way, then excellent. You just created some HTML entities. One's numerical, the other's what's called named. And the syntax, like I said, of an and sign, if you're using a number, pound sign, whatever the number is, semicolon. The other and sign, whatever the acronym might be, copy for copyright, semicolon. But let me show you in Dreamweaver here. You don't have to venture down this rabbit hole, but just to show you, if you ever get confused. So this is a Dreamweaver thing, and occasionally I will take a tour and I'll try to show you some features while you're learning HTML. So you're really learning two different things that relate to each other. One, the HTML and cascading style sheet code and syntax, and the other is the actual navigation of working through this piece of software itself. It's just not Notepad, it's Notepad on steroids. So it's got a lot of features that are trying to make your life easier. So I'm trying to teach you Dreamweaver as well at the same time, which can be a little overwhelming because of all that it provides. But one of the things is over here, it says files. If you take a look, this is the files to our website that we defined. Then there's an insert tab. So a lot of the stuff that we've done today, where we've inserted some stuff here and there, you can actually do it from here and it will write the code for you. Go figure. But if I go all the way down to the bottom, there is little guys right here where it says iframe, horizontal roll, date, non-breaking space, because we use it so much. Let me just show you. If I were to put my cursor right there and come down and hit this button, see what it did? It just actually wrote me another one. And then I can do it again and again and again and again. And you're like, calm down, Jim. But you see, very handy. It's there. Of course, yes, I forced you to write this out the long way around, but understand there's a tool there that can directly do this for us. Take one more out, I should be good, there we go. But the other thing I wanted to show you is if you drop below that, there is a little button that you can click. It shows line breaks, bunch of different things like pound, euro, yen. But let's say these are none of the characters that you want. You can click other characters and it will literally bring up big old honkin' dialogue box and stuff. Now, not all of the 65,000 are listed here. These are some of the more common ones. But I can tell you in the 20+ years of working with, I have never used this character, whatever it is called, or this one, or this one. But there's your bullet character right there. If I were to click that, click OK, it just added it. So do you see the pound sign or and pound sign 8226, the same thing we just did? You can find it in this list. It's pretty common use. So Dreamweaver keeps track of some of the most common HTML entities. The reason I bring this up is because it's something that you may not encounter all the time, but it's nice to know that these little features are here. As far as that goes. So I'm going to jump back to files. So we're really, in essence, we are done with this page. We've created it. We built it basically from scratch. And now we can go in and create a few more pages. But before we do, I want to come back and reference these two things. Again, remember how our page looked prior to dumping these cascading style sheets into the page. It was white, black text, everything kind of set, or left align, nothing really fancy going on. But if we were to go explore the CT Layout 2 CSS page created by the author, it's pretty intense. It's got a lot of stuff going on in there that defined the HTML elements and just styled them up. You know, added color, changed the font, changed the size, centered, aligned, a bunch of different things. This is where we are going to turn next to write out cascading style sheets, but that is referenced. Now, the cool thing about Dreamweaver that I like, and it gets people confused, before we drop these in, these are external style sheet references. I'll go more detail about internal, external, inline, that kind of thing. But the moment we did that, Dreamweaver, if you look at your file name, right, CT_about.html, there's the source code we are working with. That's the HTML. But if you click ctbase.css, which is kind of like, think of it as a subset of this page, you are now actually looking at this particular cascading style sheet. And you can see, now don't panic. You're going to learn how to write this. It's a little uglier in terms of what I think code-wise, because there's a lot of curly braces, square brackets, semicolons, colons, you name it. But there it is. And if you go click the next one, CT layout, that's what's actually styling up the page to make it look the way it does. If you want to scroll through that, but the moment we linked those two style sheets to this source code, this page, they show up there. And you can actually go in and edit from there, and it will reflect the changes to that page later on, just like that. So it's the reason I'm showing you this so you can learn as we start to work with these to navigate them without hesitation, because it can get a little confusing. So the source code and then the two style sheets that have been attached, and where are they? They're right here. Watch what happens. Don't do this, but if I were to remove this, and then refresh the page, watch, that one disappeared. It's no longer in there, but I'm going to bring it back because that's what makes the page look the way it does. You have to refresh. And we're back. So that is a cool feature of a Dreamweaver, that it connects your source code with all. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I have seen websites and web pages, I should say, that might have 22 or more. I'm not making, or even more cascading style sheets linked to one page. And I've opened it up in Dreamweaver and I've seen the CSS pages go clear across to the point it runs out of room and then it gives me two down arrows and you click it and the rest of the pages start coming down this way. I mean, that's insane. All linked up. I'm like, that person that designed it says that's crazy, but it's not unheard of. You could have 22 style sheets attached to this thing. And the way style sheets work, it is a top-down approach. This gets analyzed first. And let me just give you a quick example, something simple. So let's say I styled this, well, let me scroll down here. Say this, H1 element selector H1 about us. Let's say in the first style sheet, CT base, I said, hey, make the color of any H1 element red. Drop down into the next style sheet and I put H1 in there again. And I say, anywhere there's an H1 element, make it purple. What displays on the page will be purple. If I were to flip-flop them, it would be red. So whoever's on the bottom is the last one who gets the cookie. So it is a top-down. So you would think sometimes that's the opposite, but nope, it's whoever's on the bottom gets the last thing that's been designed, if you will. So, good enough. I'm going to save that. Keep this open. Just leave it there and let's move on. I'm saying, what's the next page? We're going to CT reviews. So go through your list and find the HTML document called CT reviews HTML. And you'll see that part of it is designed for us. The only thing that isn't is the text. You see right in here in between the article, here's this whole blank crap. Now, rather than save, some time here to write some stuff, go over and find the ctpages.txt file. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to knock all of this out at once. If you double click ctpages.txt, this is all the text that the author has graciously provided for us. So we don't have to type this stuff. To scroll down through, since it's CT reviews is right here, you don't need the word reviews, but copy what looks to be 2 paragraphs. And as you already know, this is going to just be one great big long honking text string. Jump over into the CT reviews HTML file, and let's just do a Control V and paste that in there. You notice, because I said not to take the word reviews because it's already in the page as an H1 element, so it would have just doubled up. Perfect. Do me a favor, do a Control S, save that. How do you know? Anytime you make a change, Dreamweaver will show you. This is with any Adobe product. It will always put a little asterisk beside of the file name. It says, hey, you've made a change and haven't saved it yet. So if you do a Control S, I'm all about keyboard shortcuts. That little asterisk will go away, which means right now power goes off, we're golden, we made that change. Let's go through the next couple pages and just take the text out, paste them into the documents, and we'll close out the CT pages and start hammering away at the HTML stuff. So I don't know what the next page is, but I'm going to start from the top. Let's do CT catering HTML. It's the same thing. You notice that there's some guts of this thing that are missing, and that's the text. So I'm going to go back to CT pages and find catering. You guys with me so far? Is this all making sense? We're just taking the text that the author has created and pasting it in the document. And we're just getting the guts in here. And I'm just doing this top down in alphabetical order. Contact HTML would be next. I'm going to go to my CT pages where to contact us. There we go. Once you get on a roll with this, you'll be. So it's literally right after the H1 element, just paste Now, again, this is not marked up, so it's just gonna be just one great big long string of stuff. What do we have next? We have locations. Dun, dun, dun. It's mobile menu, today's location, it's called today's location, so. Next. Logo, location map, menu. Get them all? No, menu, I was gonna say, here's the menu. That should be the last one. Yeah. So you just start getting into this rhythm. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 HTML documents, 1 CTP. Once you're done that whole copying and pasting from one file to the other, you can go ahead and X out the ctpages.txt file because we no longer need it. It was just there, fortunately, so we didn't have to sit and type all this stuff. I say that, but as we start adding HTML elements, remember I told you, one of the. And I cannot find the answer to this, but there was a student actually had a workaround, that I thought was brilliant. Because remember how, as we start to type in an H1 element, Dreamweaver will close it for us immediately. But it's going to be out here when we want to surround the text with it. What they came up to, Mr. House, go to the back end and do the closing tag first, and then I'm like, well, did that work? And then you can do the open, but then we ran into other issues. It still thinks, it's still trying to close out for us, which is wonderful. But it's just going to become annoying when something should be much easier than it is. I'm just giving you a forewarning, it's going to be some copying and pasting just to get this out of here. So let's go to the CT reviews page. Let's work on it. Now that we've got all the pages set, CT start was already created for us, and that's the very bottom one right here. It's already done, so we don't have to worry about that. So CT about, picked it up, designed it from ground zero. These are pre-designed, and now we're just going to go in and introduce you to a few more HTML elements as we go through. Just looking at so one of the HTML elements that can be directly worked with in Dreamweaver. Now I went to Window on the menu bar, went down and found Properties, brings up the Properties panel, which is this guy, which is technically not open by default now in Dreamweaver, and I don't know why, because it's extremely important. But what the Properties panel does is when you click on something in Dreamweaver, whether it be in Design View or Code View, it will list what element you are on, and you will see, and it will navigate, it's like a pathway down to whatever. So right now, I just happen to click. I'll just show you here. I'm in this, what would be this area right here. Dreamweaver knows everything, it's always going to be body. Everything is within the body element, always, unless you're in the head. So here's body, right? Right up there it is. And I happen to be clicking inside of the article element. There's a beginning article, way further down is the ending. So it's telling me this is the element that I happen to have my cursor blinking in. And if I wanted to select everything within that element, I could literally click on this and whoo, everything is selected, right? Because it's all in between those tags. And that's very helpful coming up later on if necessary, including the H1 element, which is nested in there. Now, I just want to point that out because that's again, this is a feature of Dreamweaver. It has nothing to do with HTML or anything. This is just the tool itself. Now, when I say Dreamweaver directly supports an HTML element. What I mean is they have an icon or a little button somewhere in here or in the insert or up in the menu item that you can just simply click and poof, it'll write the HTML for you. There are so many HTML elements that you would think that by now in 2025, Dreamweaver have caught up with all of them, and they would have a little icon that somewhere along the way you could click and like be good, but no. There's still some that you have to manually write out. And I'm like, dude, why am I paying this much money? You should be up to date with this stuff. But they haven't. So I just want to show you that, like, I've just got my cursor blinking here, no harm, no foul. But this properties panel is broken up into HTML and CSS, depending on which one you click. Let me just focus right now on the HTML. There's some things here that you can format, bold, italicize, there's bullets, there's what we call unordered list, ordered list, block quotes, which is what we're going to work on. This is why I'm bringing it up. There is no, typically when I work with block quotes, which helps to indent text, so it kind of offsets itself. There is, with this exercise, this is generally pretty easy, I'll be honest with you. But with this exercise, since we're manually coding it, not so much. So I'm just going to forewarn you with this. Let's just do these block quotes, which are, it's an HTML element. And then you'll see how it looks, and we'll just build one at a time. So a block quote is just simply an element. And right there it is. As I start typing, and look what Dreamweaver did. It immediately finished that out and throws, anytime you see white text, that's not good. It's telling me there's a mistake. Well, that's because there's nothing in between all of that. So guys, highlight this entire little paragraph right here, cut it, and pop it in between these two HTML elements. Boom. So save your file, just do a Control S. We're not going to preview this yet, because we're going to add a couple little other things. Now, what the block quote does, it takes text and just moves it in a little bit away from the left-hand side of the screen to say, hey, it's like an indent. Have you ever seen a large quote in a book? Think about, like we just saw a minute ago, if I were just to quote in line, hi, my name is Jim Howson, quote. But if I had a great big long dissertation, a couple paragraphs long, what you typically do is you take a quote, you move it in a couple times away from the regular text so it stands out, so somebody knows this is a great big long quote. It's more than just a few words or a couple sentences. It's a paragraph or two. In this case, this is one paragraph, but we want to bump it in a little bit from the edge. So we use block quotes, and some people use block quotes to indent text. Maybe that's not the right way. Some people would argue that that's not good web design. But I'm saying if it works, it works. In this case, the authors, which we already have the style sheets, you already put the style sheet connection in there. So it's going to look pretty funky and fancy because of what he did with the block quote. But let's nest some other things in here that, are typical guys that we have seen today. So let me just go ahead and hit the enter key so you can see this. Whoops. A paragraph, of course. And this paragraph, this is what I'm talking about, the frustration. So that back end paragraph should, right after where it says Charlotte period, paste that guy in there. And then Carolina Traveler is its own paragraph. And like I said, you can do it one way versus the other. As long as it looks like this. Now I'm only hitting the space bar, so this all looks like it belongs here. I'm just cleaning it up. You don't have to do this. Remember, spacing really does not matter. So all of this, even though there's what looks to be like line breaks now, this is all just one great big paragraph. This is its own little paragraph, and then the block quote sits right in there with it. Now that was painful. but typically it wouldn't be, I swear to you. Um. Save your file, go down and preview it in Google Chrome, and you will see the style sheet kicking into action with all this fancy stuff going on that is related to how he styled the block quote. Ooh. Isn't that cool? I wish I was that clever. There's a lot of things going on there, but that's the style sheet stuff. The little quote, this cool looking little parentheses, the underline with this paragraph, and in Carolina Traveler, just a little smaller, right aligned. So it sits there, and then he puts this background with rounded corners. You'll learn how to do all this pretty stuff. But then notice the rest of the paragraphs are just, well, there's actually 4 of these. And we're gonna do 4 block quotes with the nonsense in the middle. If it's not looking like that, it's probably something's a little out of whack with where you have things nested, but. Let me know, notice there's the named entity, or this is a numeric entity, there's little spaces, there's another one. We didn't have to do that because the author, did this for us. So all we're doing is styling the content in the article, which now we're using block quotes. Let's go ahead and just knock this page out. It's probably one of the honoriest ones. Let me see if I can't work around this. Let's see, steaming rice. Am I missing? Hold on. Green card review, right? Well, I hope you copied and pasted better than I did. Because I'm missing 2 other quotes. Let me go back to the CT pages for a second. It's one of those days. I apologize. Let's here's the reviews. Hello. How I didn't get these 2 is beyond me. So I'm going back, I'm copying these guys and chucking them right under here. There we are. There we go. Believe it or not, we're going to use block quotes for these, even though there's 1 line paragraphs. That's all they are. So let's just keep on very block quote. Again. Again, some paragraphs. And then food cart review, if you can follow this paragraph as well. Yeah, I apologize for all the copying and pasting, but that's. Tried. Everyone wants to throw it in the wrong place, so. Thought we could circumvent this by using the properties panel, but. It doesn't recognize where the block quotes begin and end. And it tries to put it in some wonky place. So let's just keep on going here with the old block quotes again. But you notice as you start typing, I get halfway through and I just click on block quote and it writes it out. Until I put the greater than symbol in there and then it wants to put it in the wrong spot. Hello.
Did you find it?
Right here. Gotcha.
Well, it's brand new. You sure you never used it?
I'm sitting, I've used this one. It's beat up really badly. So I'm gonna scroll back up here so you can take a look. I've tried to, clean this up as best I can. And so there's all the block quotes, 4 of them. Again, curiosity killed the cat, satisfaction brought it back. So if you save your page, go down and preview it in the browser, should look pretty cool. But again, this is just working with this new element called block quote. Of course, we've worked with paragraphs. Let's just take a look to see what it looks like. And if it turns out to look like this, then you have done it correctly. I think that's a pretty neat. It's just painful that it had to be as bad, as weird as this. Here's the thing, had none of this text ever been typed, you could click on the property panel in Dreamweaver, click block quote, it would establish that. Then you could click the paragraph and start typing, and it would fill itself in the exact same way. I understand why it wants to put the ending tag right alongside with it, so it's keeps it consistent, keeps you humble, fixes stuff for you. But when we already have text already written, that's where you have to either take the element, paste it at the end, or take the content and paste it in between. Those that have a closing element, and yeah. I've tried with this exercise 17 times till Tuesday to try to make it simpler. There is no other way unless we just did it all with Notepad, which I don't want to. So take your time. I will go back. This is what it should look like if you preview it in the browser, but I'm going to bounce back over and get into Dreamweaver so you can see the code a little bit. You zoom out. Hopefully you can see this a little bit easier. All these little block quotes with the paragraphs in between. Next page we'll work on a little bit easier, catering. It's just throwing some paragraphs in there, which we will do.
You do anything fun for Labor Day?
Me? Heck no, that's the problem. Well, actually, I visited with family quite a bit. Had some family up from Tennessee, from Nashville, and met with them, and then we had a little family gathering Saturday. We did absolutely nothing, which we should have. And then Monday did absolutely nothing, which we should have. So a couple days there, what I call wasted time. So, did you do anything fun?
We had a cookout where I used to live in Flintstone.
Oh, hey, food.
My buddy came up from where I used to live down by Annapolis for the weekend. That's nice.
Nice. We got catch up with some folks. How are you all doing? Are you guys good? I can come
Close.
around and help you out there.
I'm so close.
Yeah, I understand. It's this popping in these HTML elements. Like I said, usually I can go through and click that control panel down here and hit this button right here, which is the block quote button, boom, and it would write it. But of course, Dreamweaver's trying to figure out where to put the block quotes, and it always seems to want to put it in the wrong place. So either way, it's just easier. I won't say easier. It's not easier. It's just more. It's just better to do it the way we do it, just manually at this point. Now, the catering page is kind of simple, even though it has the text already written into it. I'm gonna hold off till everybody's caught up here. Remember, always test obviously, your pages in the browser. If it's a little wonky or something's off, it's probably just the way the things are nested. In fact, I had something and I caught it right at the last second. It was like, oh, that block quote is not where it should be. So I fixed that part. Especially when these are just one line paragraphs, best in show, thanks. Food cart cook off, great. But it does create a really nice looking page. All based on the way the author styled it up. If you want to jump over, go ahead and click on the catering HTML page, find it and bring it up here. And we're going to explore this a little bit differently this time around. So remember, we have three views in Dreamweaver. One is code, which a lot of, experienced web designers will just stay there. They'll just code, and knock themselves out, work with the style sheets, test it in the browser. If something doesn't work, you go back, tweak it, and keep doing that routine over and over and over again. To me, at that point, Dreamweaver is no better than Notepad, except maybe just a little fancier. I think where the power comes into play and why you may or may not use it, but I'm gonna say using Dreamweaver is in the features that it has for us. The other split view that we talked about where the code is here, and then it shows you what it looks like. Kinda. It will help you a little bit. It is not the browser. It isn't. If you ever want to see what your page is going to look like for real, check it in the browser. Don't trust Dreamweaver's display to think that that's accurate. Especially because there are two things there that we're going to go to live view here in just a second and go pure design view. So in the CT catering HTML page, if you go up here and we're going to skip over split, but we're going to go to live. You have two options, live. And what that does, it tries to simulate what it would look like in the browser with the style sheet and all the good little things, like drop shadows and all sorts of stuff. It's going to try its darndest to render what it would look like in the browser without you having to go down to preview, and browser. That's fine and dandy. It's very useful, but I like to simply go into design view. And why this code is still sitting here, is because I gotta click design. So you click design first, then go click the down arrow, click design. So it's design. Redundant as all get out, it's annoying. But this gets you into design view. Notice the code view goes away. These little dashed lines are this is the footer, this is the article element. What you're seeing right there is the header. This is Dreamweaver's way of showing you where these chunks are. Obviously they don't display in the browser, but visually when we're in design view, very helpful. So you see here it says since 2010 curbside ties provided, blah, 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 and it goes on and on and on. Find the word events. Let me zoom in here, see if I can. Here we go. You see where it says events? Meals are cooked. It just hit your enter key. What you didn't see is back in code view, it just wrapped paragraphs around this and starting with this one. Yay, that's very handy. All you had to do is hit the enter key and the HTML was written. At the end of upon request, that's where this sentence ends. Where is it? Please zoom back out. We will provide the plates. Oh, okay, upon request, there it is. Glassware and other dining items. If you just hit that and hit your enter both, and that should be. And then there's one last. Impress your friends and coworkers. The moment you did that in the properties panel under format, it says paragraph. It's actually showing you that it was, and it even put a little P up here in the element bar, where this thing is mapped down to. So it knows we added paragraphs there, which is pretty cool. We didn't have to go in this time and put P and then of course copy and paste the back end P, just like that, it added them in there. Now let me show you. I'm going to go back real quick to code view. And I'm gonna come right back to design, and you can see that it put the paragraphs in there in the right places this time for us. Because this was a simple little design that we did. And just like that, boom, 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 our page is starting to come together. I'm gonna go back to design. Everybody okay with it? It's just finding the right place to hit the enter key. Now we'll come back. Let me look at the. Jump back, well. Click before the paragraph where it says since. You could go either way here. You could click at the end of the H1 element, which we're gonna take a look at here in just a second. But I'm gonna do it this way and see what happens. So right before the word since, we are going to insert an image. Now, Dreamweaver gives us 5 different ways to insert an image because you do it all the time. And it's wonderful. You can go up to insert on the menu bar, find the drop down the command that says image. It will bring up a dialog box, navigate into your site, find what lower image you want, pop it right in there. You can do the control, I think it's Control-Alt-I, that's keyboard shortcut, does the same thing. You can go over to the insert tab or the insert panel, find insert image. Does the same thing. It's a bunch of different ways. What I'm going to do is something a little bit lazier, and that is let me find out what image we're looking for. CT Photo 2 Ping. So watch what I do here. I'm going to find CT Photo 2 Ping, which is this guy right there. You can literally pick it up and drop it in, drag it right in front of the word since. See, take a look up here on the screen, see the little page, and go pop. And because of the style sheet that was applied, notice it automatically right aligned, and that's what we wanted, actually. It's pretty cool. I'm trying to show you that we coded the block quote one, but this one we can design pretty much without even looking in code view. Those are pretty handy. This is the way Dreamweaver is supposed to be, you know. Keep you out of code view as much as possible, make life a little easier for you. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this particular page, it actually did pretty good. If you save your page and preview it in the browser, it will then actually show you what it's supposed to look like. Because it'll enlarge the image, make it look really nice. Yes, save your change. There we are. And done. That's all based on the style sheet. Notice that design, yes, it will try its darndest to try to show you what it's going to look like, but it doesn't give you the full Monty until you actually preview it in the browser. I always do that. That's the best thing to do. Cool. Notice the large gaps between your. Now, I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver while you guys are probably coding a little bit, just to talk about the features here for a split second. So when I click on the word catering, if you do the same thing, remember we're in design view at this point. Catering, if you come down, notice it's telling me it is a heading 1 element. Not only is it telling me here in the property count because I clicked on it, it also shows me that there's the H1 element right here. So I know specifically what I'm looking at. If I were to click down to the paragraph below it, it would say paragraph and it would put a little P here. That's inside of the article element, which is inside the body. Everything's in there. Now, watch what happens when I click on the image element or the image, this picture. So I click on the picture, notice the property panel changes. Very handy. It tells me that there's an image inside of this paragraph, which of course it is. Fine. Even though it's probably not supposed to be, but that's okay. I'm good with it. It tells me the source. It's telling me where this picture lives. It says CT Photo 2 Ping. It lives right in the same neighborhood as the page. Tells me if there's any classes, any links or anything like that, gives me the width and the height. It showed me all sorts of cool stuff. What I'd like to do though, move this out of the way. Over here is the alt element. It's not an alt element, excuse me. Pardon me, anybody's going to listen to this video, the alt attribute at this point. I was gonna put a picture of catering. With an exclamation point. So again, it's right in the background, what you are not seeing, it just wrote, it has the image element, has all the attributes like source, width, height, whatever, and then all equals. I find this very easy to work with. And now if you were to save this, preview this in a browser, you hover over that image, that text should show up there. Let's spell picture wrong.
That's for like blind people and stuff. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is exactly who that is for. I'm gonna save my page, yes. Now let's see what happens. Google, come on. Now that's interesting that in Google Chrome, that is not showing up. Usually if you hover your mouse over the image, it will give you a little title that what you put in as the alt tag. I'm going to come back. And I'm not sure what kind of hot water I'll get into. I'm going to Mozilla Firefox. I'm previewing my page in Firefox. Will it launch? I don't know. Why is it taking this long? There we go. Let's see. Anything? Interesting. We'll preview it. The Internet Explorer, heaven forbid. Oh. Ask me later. Showed up over here. It's giving me a bunch of crazy stuff. There we go.
Isn't there like something happening with Internet Explorer?
Yeah, they're trying to replace it with Edge, obviously.
I thought there was some other recent news or something.
Could be. Well, this is crazy. Somewhere along the way, you should see these little things pop up, but probably another element or attribute that I'm not thinking of, but it's made a liar out of me at this point. Last but not least, I'm gonna preview this sucker in Opera. Let's see, the browser no longer exists. Okay, so I'm not.
Opera's gone.
Yeah, they moved it off my machine somewhere.
Oh, I thought that it was not existent.
No, it's floating around there someplace. It said it doesn't exist in the location any longer. So that's just some features I wanted to point out again. This is the way Dreamweaver should work. You know, just go into design view, throw some images in here, type your text, format it with the property panel, and done. Now later, when we get into some more sophisticated editing with CSS, we have that available to us as well. We have literally 4 minutes. I think we will probably just stop here. So we've created 3 pages today about, we finished up CT reviews, the catering. The next is the contact locations and the menu. That's a little bit different. We're going to use something called a definition list. It's a way to, again, create lists, which I have not explained. Let me just do something real quick here. Just going to do this in design view, design, boom. So unordered list, let me just show you, Kaiser, Cumberland, Frostburg. So there are essentially a couple different lists. One is unordered list, definition list, and ordered list. An unordered list, real quick, just uses bullets, and I'll show you the code in just a second. So I come down here and I click this, boom. You see here where it says Kaiser, Cumberland, Frostburg, they put little bullets there. This is one that's directly that you can directly code right within Dreamweaver. Another one now, let me come down here and put Karen, Lynn, Dave, Jim. There's also something called an ordered list. If I click it, now what do you see the difference? Unordered uses bullets. Ordered list uses numbers. But later on in style sheets, when we start playing around with these, we can change those out. In other words, we can use attributes instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do Roman numerals. We can do uppercase Roman numerals. We can do uppercase letters. We can do lowercase letters. They don't have to be just decimal numbers that you and I see. For Kaiser, Cumberland, Frostburg, the bullets, usually a solid round circle, but we can make them hollow. We can make them square. We can even go in and use our own. We could go into Photoshop, for example, and design a frog. It's a little tiny thing, and we could replace it in style sheets to say, hey, instead of bullets, let's use little frogs, you know, and spice up the page that way, or some other kind of special characters. But there is another one that isn't as easy to follow, and that is a definition list. And that comes up here when we go to edit, list, definition list, and that's the next one we're going to focus on the next time. So that won't be until next Monday. At that point, because the locations, the menu, and I think the other page uses definition lists. It's because the author wanted to style it up and do something fun and funky with it to make the pages look pretty. But notice unordered list, ordered list, definition list. And while I've got you for one more minute, let me go into the code of this thing so you can see how they are written out. It starts off with a UL element for unordered list. There's a back end and a front end. A front end, back end, you can see unordered list, and then it nests a list element, an LI element with a front and a back end. That's how these function. Notice the ordered list, OL, and then it just crashed on me. Wow. Video's over. Yep, there we go. Unordered list. OL, open, close, list elements in between. Definition list, you're going to see something a little bit similar. And it starts off DD, DD, then DT, and then LI in between, or DL. It's a little bit uglier, a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. So I'm going to stop here. You can always come back and watch these guys. I'm just going to start closing things down. If it asks you to save anything, by definite, yeah, definitely do that. Because it'll pick up where we left off. So we've at least got the guts and the material in all of our pages, and we're ready to go to just finish up. We've got 3 more to go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to link them up with a navigation bar. So our site can be thoroughly navigated in any direction, way, shape, or form that we wish it to. We might be able to wrap this up on Monday when we get back. So,
This is where we got up to.
yep, we just wrapped that up. Guys, are you okay? I can come around and help if anybody got lost. Y'all good? Hey, man, you guys are good. Usually somebody gets buckled out there, you know, four sheets to the wind before I catch them. But great job. We've covered a lot of ground here today. Again, doing things that we're fighting with the editor that should be a little bit easier, but I think once we get the hang of this, it'll be pretty good. So thank you all.